In my brain, like, I can't stop thinking about the comparison that this is a stabby Hogwarts. I don't understand how there's any, like, graduates of this freaking school sometimes. So much has just happened. My heart is pounding in my chest. I love that Magnolia just honestly walks these boys like dogs. Hello, besties. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tori. If you're new, this story begins on the day that Iron Flame got released. It was a big day for the book community in 2023. We're going to flash back in time for a moment to the day that Iron Flame released, and then we will come back afterwards and catch up a little bit. Happy Iron Flame Day! So this vlog is going to be a reading vlog for Iron Flame. I do have a dedicated reading vlog for Fourth Wing as well that I will link up above and down below. These vlogs, I do no spoilers until the very end. I have like a spoiler section. I'm freaking out. Let's read Iron Flame together. Hello besties, before we get back to all of my Iron Flame and Daisy Haites shenanigans, we're here to thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Teddy Blake. Teddy Blake has luxurious quality handbags without the luxury price, and they are having their semi-annual sale right now. This goes from the 12th to the 21st of January, and you can get up to 70% off of all of their handbags and I think most of their website, which I will leave linked down below. I have the Bella Pomelato in black and red, and it's the only purse I've been using for the last couple months. It fits my Kindle perfectly. I've traveled with this bag last week and it still looks absolutely brand new. I have all of their socials linked down below. I also have their website. I do have a code with Teddy Blake, which I will leave on screen. I'm not sure if it will work in tandem with the sale, but if you have missed the semi-annual sale, that is okay. You can get $30 off of your purchase with my code on screen. Again, thank you so much to Teddy Blake for sponsoring this video. Now, back to these amazing, incredible, gorgeous, stunning books. Yes, I have been holding on to that footage for 2 months now because I knew that I was going to do my Iron Flame vlog. After I picked up the book from Target, was planning to read it literally that week, I got so stressed by all of the hype and the theories and the spoilers online and all of these things that I was like, I need to take a moment, and I know that I'm not gonna have my best reading experience if I read Iron Flame right now. I needed to wait a little bit. The hype has died down. We are also going to be reading a couple other books as well. So I hope that you're excited, friends. I forgot to do my actual intro, by the way. Hi, welcome. My name is Tori. If you're new, I'm so happy that you're here. I'm so excited because it has been like 3 weeks since I've officially sat down and done a traditional weekly reading vlog. After Bookmas, I gave myself 2-week/3 week break, and I wasn't putting any pressure on myself to read. If I didn't want to read, I didn't have to read. I'm feeling very rejuvenated. The other book on my list for this week is Daisy Haites The Great Undoing by Jessa Hastings. I just finished the one book that I was kind of slowly reading during my downtime little break was Magnolia Park's The Long Way Home, which I absolutely loved. It actually ended up being my last read of 2023. That got me to 150 books on the nose, and I did give it 5 stars. I was like, of course I read a 5-star book after I already finished my 5-star reads for 2023.
But it's fine, and we're here now.
To be decided if we're going to throw another book in the mix here. We will see how it goes, but I hope they're excited, friends. If you are, please be sure to this video a big thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let's get to reading. Happy Monday. I am now 145 pages into Iron Flame, so I figured I could do a bit of an update. I'm on chapter 15, so non-spoilers. I feel like this book has a much slower start, and I think that's what other people have been saying as well, whereas Fourth Wing really grips you right from the very beginning, and it's extremely suspenseful with very high stakes. There are still high stake moments that we've had so far, but overall it just feels like the pacing is a bit slower in this first quarter, 25%. Yeah, that's like pretty much, that's pretty much all I have right now that's not like spoilery. I will have a couple spoiler updates for this section that I read. I'm very interested, I think, in what's gonna happen with Andarna, and I will just reiterate, like I did in Fourth Wing, I love how the dragons are like main characters in this book. They're not just animal companions. Is a dragon an animal? I don't know if you can call it that, but like, you know what I mean? They have their own personalities, they have their own dialogue, they have very important roles that they play in the story, and I really, really appreciate that because I don't think I've read another book where they're part of the main cast of characters, if you will. They're not just these side characters that support our main characters, and so I do really like that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for now. I am, like I said, 25% of the way through. I'm gonna try to do probably quarterly updates with this because I think that's enough of like a section of the book to talk about, especially with the pacing of that first quarter. I feel like nothing has really happened. In my brain, like I can't stop thinking about the comparison that this is a stabby Hogwarts. I continuously think of the scene where Harry has to battle dragons in the Goblet of Fire, and there's that scene of like dragons flying around the castle, especially after the first years cross the parapet and they have those like speeches and the dragons come and like land. I think of that scene in Harry Potter. So I will leave you with that. I'm hoping to get some good reading done today, at least. Let's set a page goal because I feel like I need that structure in my life right now. I would say at least 100 more pages, and I think that's pretty doable because I do have the audiobook. Like I mentioned, I am immersive reading, so at least chapter 27, page 245 is my goal for the day. So I'm gonna keep reading. I feel like every time I sit down to read this book, I'm reading for a long time, but I'm not like getting very far because of the formatting of this book. Like the text is so small and there's so many words on the page, but I'm a little over halfway to my goal for the day. So I'm trying to get to page 245. I'm on page 202. One thing that I just love, I mean, you've heard me say this a million times if you have watched my videos and have been subscribed for a little while, but all of my favorite books and authors do dialogue so well, and I feel like the majority of the writing in these books is dialogue between characters, and I love that you get, of course there's plot driving what's going on, but so much of a scene happens through the dialogue, whereas other types of writing, it's going to be more of a narration process. And I just love it. I feel like Rebecca Yarros does writing so well, and I feel like that's why so many people with Fourth Wing just got so invested in these characters so quickly because you just see them naturally evolve. Like the way that Rebecca Yarros writes interpersonal communication, like she just gets it to a point that makes it feel real. And this is for the non-spoiler section, so I'm not gonna really say anything, but I just read a scene between Violet and Xaden, and I'm really annoyed with like where their relationship is at. We're currently 200 pages in. I feel like still like nothing has happened, but the dialogue between them and the conversation that they just had, it made me a little bit less frustrated because I'm like, look at them. It's kind of real. Like I think if things were moving faster in my head, I would have been like, well, this is a little bit of an unrealistic pacing. So I'm not mad at the slow pacing, but like I'm at the point where I'm really ready for something to happen, and I'm a little nervous because I heard that the first half of this book is really quite slow, and I'm now at the, I think like 30% mark, 30%-ish. So we'll see. I'll probably check in next tomorrow. Good morning, besties. We are getting ready. It is Tuesday and I have some updates about Iron Flame. I ended up reading like 150 or 140 pages. I got to page 287. I am like back in it to win it. Can't put it down. I'm excited when I'm picking it up again. I'm trying to think of updates that I can talk about that aren't spoilery. For me, right around like the 40% mark was where it really started to pick back up. I think what I struggled with in the first 40% was that it felt like a continuation of Fourth Wing. Any book with an academic setting where our main characters are returning for their next year of school, it's like, okay, well, how do I make this feel different from the last year of school that we read about? But I think that when you start to get exposed to the things that make second year different, which doesn't happen right away, but when you do start to get that exposure, it makes it much more high stakes. I still just can't wrap my head around how this school, number one, has anyone that wants to be a dragon rider. Like, they make it the absolute hardest thing in the world. And number two, bordering on like a little spoilery, but not really, they literally torture their students. Like, you see that in the first book as well. Like, they literally torture them and try to kill them. And so I don't understand how there's any like graduates of this freaking school sometimes. Honestly, what is happening? Obviously it makes sense, and that's like the whole point of the school and the book and everything is to like be a rider and be a badass. But sometimes I'm just like, I could never. Like, I am a reader who oftentimes pictures myself as the main character. These books, I'm like, absolutely not, could not be me. They are getting taken places they don't know, bags over their heads, dumped in the woods, have to camp out at night, and I'm like, if I don't have a boiling hot shower, drink my sleepy time tea with my Stanley cup filled up with ice water next to my bed, I can't go to sleep. So picturing myself as the main character of these books, I'm like, literally could not be me. Who do I think I am? Like, absolutely not. I think I'm gonna continue with my momentum from yesterday and aim for my 100-page goal. I'm also really excited to get to Daisy Haites after we finish Iron Flame. I think it'll be a good genre switch to another book that has really strong writing that I know that I love, because my other concern about starting off with Iron Flame was Fourth Wing put me in, I won't say a reading slump, but I had such like a reading hangover from Fourth Wing because I loved it so much that I was like, I don't want to read another fantasy book right now. Like, nothing is gonna compare to what I just read. Chapter 35 has my mind absolutely blown. Oh my god. Okay, I made it to part 2, chapter 37, and I just wanted to do a little bit of a check-in here because so much has just happened. My heart is pounding in my chest. Chapters 35 and 36, I have to say, I'm really not mad at the pacing of the first like 30% anymore, because once things start happening, they do not stop. I am shooketh. I didn't think that what just happened was going to happen in this book. So I'm gonna keep reading now because I can't control myself at this point. Hello besties, apologies that I didn't really vlog too much yesterday, but I did end up reading another over 100 pages, like 115. I'm now on page 468, chapter 49, and I'm probably not going to say too much here. I am going to say a lot more in the spoiler section about the last 100 pages that I read, because no ma'am, no ma'am, no. I've been liking this so far, like especially as we got towards the middle portion of this book, but from 70 to 75%, it was like 5 chapters worth of focusing on one character that is new to this book. They weren't in the first one. I don't like how it's coming between other characters. It's giving me like really big ick. I guess that's all I can really say at this point in time. I'm liking where the overall plot is going. It's just like what's happening with the characters right now and what's happening with Violet in particular, and like how she's feeling about certain things. I'm like, bestie, why are we here? Why are we doing this? This like really impacted my star rating and my overall enjoyment of the book, I'm not gonna lie. I think it really depends on what happens next and what happens with this character, we'll take it from there. I'm gonna update my spoiler section now. Hello besties, happy Friday. I'm running some errands today, so I might do a couple car updates. I'm also just trying to like get out of the house because I've spent so much time just like in the house this week from like working from home and stuff like that. Plan for today, I'm at Ulta right now because we are going back to Massachusetts on Sunday to visit our family. So like when this video goes up, we will be in Massachusetts. So I came to Ulta because I have to get like travel size, like travel stuff. I did finish Iron Flame last night and I posted a very detailed, spoilers included, review on Goodreads. So if you aren't friends with me on Goodreads, first of all, it's always linked in the description box below. I usually post reviews for every single book that I read, but this one is like very, very detailed because my friend Katie from Katie's Book Nook with fantasy series, she was like, what you can do is write like very, very detailed, descriptive reviews of the book. And then instead of like when the next book in the Empyrean series comes out, instead of having to search for like summaries if you don't want to do a reread of the book, so you can just like read your review that you wrote, and the more detailed the better. And I was like, oh, that's so big brains, like yes, I want to do that. So that's what I did for Iron Flame, but I guess for right now I will just leave you with, I gave it 3 stars and it really hurts me to my core because Fourth Wing was like top book, like favorite book, love it so much, and Iron Flame just like let me down in a couple of key ways. So I'll go into that more into detail a little bit later, and then I will also do like a much more detailed in the spoiler section talk about it. But today the goal is to start Daisy Hates the Grit and Doing, which I'm very excited for. We'll see. I'm gonna really try to finish it by tomorrow because I want this book to be like in this vlog, but we need to run some errands first, and then I'm gonna try to go to a coffee shop or something to read instead of just like sitting at home to read, because we need to just like get out of the house for a little while. Hi besties. Okay, I came to the library because I just feel like being able to like focus on reading the library. But I'll give a quick little Ulta haul. I'm sorry if those are bothering you. They were bothering me. I'll give like a little haul of what I got from Ulta. It's literally just like travel size / sample size stuff. And then let's talk about Iron Flame a little bit more than we did. I got a travel size of the Rio de Janeiro moisturizing shower cream gel, the Bum Bum cream, and the pistachio and salted caramel spray. I use this spray and I love the smell of it, so, and it comes in this little travel pack that I'm gonna stick like my other stuff in, so it just worked out that way. I got the Kenra Volume Dry Shampoo. My hairdresser uses Kenra and I use the volumizing spray from Kenra. If you're looking for something that smells absolutely incredible, use this. And then I wanted to try a mousse for my hair when I do my overnight curls. I'm trying to find ways for my overnight curls to stay a little bit longer. To be fair, they do already last like 2 days pretty stinking well, but I'm trying to extend it because I'm lazy and I don't want to do my hair all the time. So I got the Paul Mitchell Extra Body Sculpting Foam, and we'll see if this works. And then I just got a Redken Frizz Dismiss shampoo and conditioner. Really general updates that are non-spoilery, but just like overall thoughts of the book, because like I said, I gave it 3 stars. There are so many people around me right now. It's fine. The things that were really off for me with this book compared to the first one, the pacing was so off for me. The beginning, like the first like 25% was really quite slow, and it felt like Fourth Wing Take 2, except we were second years. But I think that the book really struggled to differentiate itself from the first book. There was like a massive detour in the middle that I'm not gonna go into like a lot of detail because I don't want to get spoilery, but the whole middle of the book felt very like lost. And Rebecca Yarros is a suspense author. Like that's one of the reasons why Fourth Wing was so addicting, and I feel like she does write suspense really well, but what she tried to do with the suspenseful moments in the middle of this book really fell flat for me because I just didn't like the plot points. And then 3/4 of the way through the book, so like at the 70 to 80% mark, we're going through a lot of like locations and war tactics and talking about maps and like all of these things that really just lost my interest for a while. I think that the ending was really good. The ending was one of the reasons that like I didn't give this book 2 stars. A lot of the factors of this book for me were 2 stars. The pacing was 2 stars. The relationship and the romance was 2 stars. That's difficult for me to say because I do love Violet and Xaden. I love them so much, but I did not like what was happening in terms of the like plot and their dynamic through this book. I didn't really even enjoy the spicy scenes. There's one spicy scene, the shower scene, that I loved. When we got to that point, I was like, I'm back in it, I'm loving this, just like I loved Fourth Wing, and then it kind of faded again for me, and there's another spicy scene that happens later in the book that just completely, like, I actually had the ick because it was so poorly timed. I just didn't like it. So, relationship and romance, 2 stars. The antagonists in this book also were 2 stars for me. Like, they just weren't... And I can't go into a lot of detail there because it's very spoilery, but the antagonists were not it for me. What I did really, really enjoy about this book was the world expansion. We get a lot more detail about the magic systems that are taking place. We get a lot more detail about Violet kind of honing her powers. We learn more about like Xaden's powers. I love the magic. I think it's very interesting, and it's quite simple, but it works really well. And then the Dark Wielders are also very interesting. I'm excited to learn more about them. I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get to learn more in this book, but I feel like it's kind of, well, it's definitely coming in book 3. And I did really like the ending of this book. I think that Rebecca Yarros writes battle scenes really, really well. Like, it's actually crazy that these battle scenes can last multiple chapters and still feel very suspenseful, and you feel like you are in the action. It's very easy to picture what's going on in your head, which I think can be difficult sometimes with so many characters and dragons and griffins and the enemies and like all of these things going on. That's a lot happening. She does a good job of painting the entire picture during the battle scenes. The suspense is there, and the ending was really, really good. I love the cliffhanger that we got left on. There were some emotional gut punches right at the very end that I definitely enjoyed. So yeah, I'm a little disappointed. 3 stars might be a little bit harsh, but when I was thinking about how I kind of grade books, this book was a good, not great for me, and that's a 3 star in my book. So that is the non-spoiler breakdown of Iron Flame. I'm gonna go into the library now and we're gonna start our next book. Okay, quick check-in because it's been a little while. I am now 60 pages into The Great Undoing. I'm really enjoying this. I was a little bit worried about this book because I find that I love the Magnolia books. Like, Magnolia and BJ are so toxic, but they give Chuck and Blair, but like make it that much worse and also like that much better. And I love their story so stinking much. And I just found that with the first Daisy Haites book, I didn't connect as much with her, but it's still like beautiful writing. Like, I love Jessa Hastings. So I was a little bit worried about this for those reasons. However, I am having a good time so far. I feel like because I was so into The Long Way Home, and these books tend to have multiple POVs, and I fell so in love with Julian in The Long Way Home, and he has a POV in this. It basically rotates through Daisy, Christian, and Julian. I actually saw, I forget if it was on Instagram or just like a Goodreads review when I was marking this as currently reading, someone said they gave it a lower rating because they were like, I didn't love how much like Julian was in this book because Julian is kind of focused on like Magnolia. I won't say more than that because no spoilers, but I think that that has me really intrigued and has me like enjoying it a lot more because there's so much in the Magnolia books that there's other things going on in the background of this whole like friend group that you don't find out about until you read these books. The only thing that really bothers me about the Daisy Haites books, and it bothered me a lot in the first one, is that there's footnotes. They're only in Daisy's chapters. To me, it's a very disruptive reading experience. I don't like seeing the number and having to jump down the page to read the thought. And like for Daisy, like this is an example, like on both of these pages, these are the footnotes. So it takes up a good amount of the page. And the writing style is already like stream of consciousness. So to me, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to break it out into a footnote when the footnotes aren't anything other than a continuation of the stream of consciousness. Me and footnotes just don't vibe typically, but I think one thing that's helping actually is reading this book physically, because the first Daisy Haites book I read on my Kindle and it wasn't as, and footnotes on a Kindle is an experience I would not wish on my arch nemesis, because it's not as easy as like formatting like this. On the Kindle, it basically pushes all of the footnotes to like the last page of the chapter, and so it's even more disruptive because if you wanted to follow along with the footnotes, it's like you have to be jumping to the back of the chapter. Absolutely not. So this is much better. They're not bothering me as much as they did in my first read, but that was on me because I was reading an ebook and it was horrible. Hello besties, happy Saturday. So today is officially the last day of this weekly reading vlog and I have an update for The Great Undoing. This morning I didn't really read anything, but last night I read a lot. Like I just laid in bed, I was watching old reading sprints and listening to ambient rooms and just like reading this book and having the time of my life because I'm loving this book so stinking much. And this morning I haven't read anything because I have been working on editing this vlog, which so far it is quite long. I had almost 2 hours of footage and I'm obviously not done yet. I have another day to include. After I'm done editing this vlog, we're just gonna run to the post office because I have a Pango order that I need to mail, and then the rest of the day planning to read as much of this as possible, but we're also flying back to Massachusetts tomorrow like I mentioned earlier. So I want to clean the apartment so that it's nice and clean for when we're gone and when we come back. Saying that out loud, I feel like I have a lot of things to do today. But updates for The Great Undoing. I'm so in love with this book, and honestly it's because Julian is such a massive part in this and we're getting so many behind the scenes of The Long Way Home. If it were entirely centrally focused on Daisy and Christian, as much as I do love them as a couple, and they do have their own complications, but like Magnolia and BJ are always going to be 10 times more messy, and like I just love that messiness of them so much. Daisy and Christian, at least so far, because I know that there's at least one thing that's going to happen that makes it quite messy between the two of them. They just both have hurt feelings and then like reservations about getting back into things with each other. But I love this writing so stinking much. Like I mentioned, my favorite part of this whole book is Julian and getting his POV of what's happening with Magnolia. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. I love that Magnolia just honestly walks these boys like dogs. She just has this gravitational force that pulls people to her, and Julian has the same thing. Then I just love them together. Like I honestly do, even though I love her and BJ and I love their whole love story, I just love Julian's. But I love how Daisy adds in a lot of the art comparisons, and when they go to the museum, like one of my favorite scenes so far is her and Christian at the museum. I do feel for her copper boyfriend Tills, because he's so sweet to her, and like the beginning of this book and everything that happens, they are so sweet and they're so cute, and I get that he's supposed to be like the good choice, like the better choice for Daisy. I'm trying to keep this as broad as possible because I really don't want this to be spoilery, but like it's difficult. Tiller made a certain decision with Daisy in a moment of fear and like danger was happening, and so like he made this choice with Daisy and now he's like mad about it. We knew it was coming. We knew that this was going to be like a sinking ship. I love all of the sinking ship analogies, but it really just reminds me of BJ and all of his nautical analogies from The Long Way Home. It's just like we knew it was coming and now we have to deal with the consequences and like how it's playing out, which is a difficult pill to swallow, I think, for both the characters to whom it's happening and also us as the readers. But you know when I'm like giggling and smiling and hugging a book as I'm talking about it, like I'm having a really good time with it. Hello friends. So the good news is I got everything done that I needed to get done today, besides read. And that's the bad news, is I don't have any additional reading updates for the grade I'm doing. I am gonna read this tonight before I go to sleep, but I do need to end the vlog here because I have to upload it and make sure that it's all set up and ready to go. So I have to love you and leave you here, and I'm very sad about it. After this section, I'm going to say goodbye, but the spoiler section starts after this. That's why the vlog continues on. I will be posting a review of this when I finish it on Goodreads, so make sure to add me on Goodreads. It's like down below. I will probably finish this tomorrow when we're flying, because I feel like airports are nothing but waiting, flying, and reading and eating snacks. So thank you so much for watching. If you've made it this far, please leave a flower emoji, something similar to a daisy if you can, down below, just to let me know that you were here and you watched this far. If you're going to continue watching the spoiler section, a lot happens, so I hope that you have fun there, and then I will say a secondary goodbye to those of you who are watching all the way through. Bye friends! This is the spoiler section for Iron Flame. I am at the 25% mark, and a couple spoilery thoughts. I think the dynamic between Xaden and Violet is interesting. The fact that they're having to deal with this separation. I do like that because we got, I just love their love story in the first one so much, so I think that this is putting an interesting spin on things. I will say the first time that Violet goes to visit Xaden, and she's like, she has these boundaries because he's broken her trust, not telling her everything and saying that she has to like ask the right questions to get the answers that she wants, and she's like, I can't trust you if you're doing that, and it's put this rift in their relationship, and then the separation on top of that. But then the first time she goes to visit him and she's like pining after him, she's like questioning everything, and she's like, I want you to kiss me, like, and then in her head she's like, why did I decide to do this? Like, he's so hot, I love him, like he is everything that I want in a man. And she's like very, very angsty. They both are. And Xaden kind of lays down that expectation that he's not going to do anything with her unless she tells him that she loves him. I do like that, but I will say in that moment when they are like kissing and then like talking about all that stuff, and she's like non-stop just pining over Xaden, even for me, and I love piney scenes like that, I was like, this is laying it on very, very thick. Like, I don't know that she had to go so over the top with it, because when she's like watching Xaden in the pit fighting that guy, she's just like drooling over him, which fair, but like, did it have to be, I think it was like an entire chapter, like the majority of a chapter, and these chapters are pretty long, so I was like, okay, like we get it. The only other spoilery thing that I have to mention, I love that they're writing letters to each other. I love that that's becoming more of a thing in books recently, but I'm very shooky to my core that at the beginning of certain chapters, when it's the recovered correspondence of Lieutenant Xaden Ryerson to Cadet Violet Sorrengail, the recovered correspondence like really freaks me out. What does that mean, bestie? What does that mean? I haven't read too much more. I'm only on page 178, but this is something that I wanted to mention because Imogen in the first book was such an antagonist, and like I really liked her character. I liked that she was so distrusting of Violet because of like very solid reasons, but in this book, like because of everything that's happened, I like that Imogen is, I don't know, acting as more of a friend, but like a very bristly friend. I tend to love characters like that, but it's making me very nervous because we got close to Liam in the first book and like look what happened, and so I'm distrustful of Rebecca Yarros at this point, that I'm really hoping Imogen doesn't become Liam part 2. I would be devastated. But I loved the conversation that she had with Violet where she's like, do you want to talk about your relationship? And Violet was like, you don't like when I talk about my relationship with you? And she's like, you have until we get to this class that we're going to. And Violet's going on and on about like trust and how she's frustrated with Xaden and all of these things, and she was like, you knew him as a person, like you knew what you were getting into before you were in this like relationship. Why were you expecting everything to completely change? Like any writer, if you got into a relationship with them in this entire school, has secrets and like things that they have to keep and things that are classified, and it would be the same with literally anyone. Like, why can't you just get past this and move on? And I was like, Emogenous spin facts. I'm starting to get a little bit frustrated that we're almost 200 pages into this book and Violet just like can't deal with the fact that her and Xaden can never have a completely 100% open relationship, especially not until she fixes her brain shields. But at the same time, the first book, like, let's be honest with ourselves, she was a bit OP. It was like she started to come into her powers and everything was so easy for her and she learned it with the snap of her fingers. Like, things weren't really a struggle for her to master, besides obviously because of her what do you call it, like long-term illness with her joints and her bones. That's obviously something that she still has to overcome. But in terms of learning how to shield and master her lightning powers, like all of these things, they came fairly easy to her. But now that she has to keep her mind shields up all the time and it's something that continues to be difficult for her, I'm kind of like, why? Like, you picked up everything else so quickly. It has to be because something bad is going to happen. For the spoiler section, a couple things that have happened in the last part that I read. So I don't know how to feel about Catriona. I think it's very interesting that Rebecca Yarros decided to have like an ex situation showing up here, especially where Xaden and Violet are kind of separated from each other. So I'm not feeling great about that. I think it's kind of weird. However, that's one of the things that I guess I was like spoiled for, because I saw fan art of Catriona and it said like had to do like a fan art of Xaden's ex. So like, wasn't a spoiler, but I knew that she was gonna be present like in this book. But I'm trying to remember, because it's been a while since I've read Fourth Wing. They've encountered that same group of Griffin riders in the first book, but was Catriona just like not in the group last time? Like, she only showed up this time with this encounter with Violet. And then the fact that she was being so rude to Violet and she was like looking after Xaden with longing, I was like, this is gross. So I hope that we get more information about that whole situation. I literally just stopped at the part where Jacinia tells them that she located the vault, the like top secret confidential vault that they didn't know about. Violet told her friends about, not about Brennan, but she told her friends about the venin and the wyvern and all of that. And so now they're all like working together to study about the wards. But I'm like, how, like, why are we just like dropping these bombs about like Xaden's ex, about Cam knowing what's going on and that's why he decided to join the Riders? Like, we're not getting any information on like some kind of big information drops, and it's really aggravating me at this point. Like, I just want to know, how is this all gonna come together? And then Jack Barlow apparently comes back from the dead, and I just got to the part, like the end of the chapter, where she's falling off of the turret and Jack Barlow is the one who like stabs the assassin and is like gonna save her. I feel like Jack Barlow coming back from the dead is the most random thing in the entire world. Like, he was dead for months, a literal mountain fell on him, and you're telling me that now the what are they called? Not healers. The menders can just like resurrect people, and he's like the most random person to resurrect. It was obviously done for a reason, but I'm never a fan of the resurrection trope. We need to just have words about chapters 35 and 36, because I feel like I've mentioned them multiple times at this point. I haven't said anything else besides the fact that my heart was racing in my chest. I just got to chapter 37. Varish, I feel like I'm supposed to know who he was if he played a role in Fourth Wing, but it's like been so long that I don't remember, besides him being vice commandant. But like, did he have such a bone to pick with her in the first book? I honestly like
need to refresh my memory because maybe that's on me, don't understand. I mean, he saw right through like what was actually happening with Violet, so now it makes sense why he was trying to like torture her and get in her head this whole entire time. But chapter 35, when he's just like torturing her nonstop, and when Liam starts to show up, like she's in so much pain that she is just hallucinating Liam, and he's like, I face down Malik, like I'm right where I need to be, I'm here supporting you, whatever. I was like, my heart can't take much more of this. It was so devastating, but perfect. Like I love that Liam is still such a presence in the story because he was such a star angel boy in the first book. I just love him so much. And then we need to talk about Lilith in chapter 36 and how she's like known all of this the whole time. She's been trying to protect Violet and like her kids from everything that's going on. Her deal with Xaden, that Xaden was protecting Violet because Lilith told him to. I don't know how to feel about that. You know, she made these strategic choices because if she became leader of the scribe quadrant, she wouldn't have been able to, like, she would find all this information out, but her mom knows her better than she knows herself is what she was basically saying. And she was like, that's why I needed you in the writer's quadrant, so that you didn't have to be put in that position, because everything would go to shit if you became like the leader of the scribes. My brain is like struggling to process all of this information, honestly. And then the fact that they just recruit so many people to come to the rebels and they are like officially done with Bisgayeth. I wasn't expecting, like, you knew that this was coming, but personally I wasn't expecting this to happen in book 2. And my predictions for like the rest of the series, I mean, it means that I'm like halfway through this book. I still have a whole nother half to go through, so a lot is gonna happen. But like, that means the next books aren't gonna be like the return to Bisgayeth and like more classes and like what we need to learn and all of those things. It's gonna be wartime, and I think we're gonna learn a lot more about the, obviously, like the Wyvern and the Venin. Hello besties, spoiler section update. So I am up to chapter 49. I just read another 100 pages yesterday, a little bit over. I'm on page 468. I have a lot of thoughts. The first being, I have discovered a new ick in books, and I think this is why not a lot of authors do an X scenario, because I am not about Catriona. I don't like how Violet is just like spiraling in this insecure way. I don't like that. I don't like how Xaden is acting through all of this. I get it where he drew that kind of line of, if you ask any questions to me, I will answer them. But the fact that he hasn't been forthcoming and told Violet literally anything about his ex that she now has to like directly deal with all the time, now that like the Griffin Riders and like all of them are together, and by the way, we used to be engaged. Like, the fact that he just let her go completely blind into the dark with all of this, and the fact that she can get into Violet's head and like play mind games and enhance her feelings, that has nothing to do with like confidential secrets, if you will. Like, that is just Xaden kind of being an asshole and like not cluing Violet into how to handle herself, what's going on, any of that. And then the part that really gave me a massive ick, it was like 3 chapters long. They're back at Athbean, and that whole thing that happens and the fact that she was gonna like kill her, the way that Xaden handled the situation, like pulls her off of Kat, they go into the separate room, they have their spicy moment, that gave me the biggest ick in the entire world. Because why is his reaction when she's like getting so upset about Kat to like do that with her, and then he won't take it any further because he's like, you're not just like something for me to fuck, like Catriona had said, and so he's like, I'm not gonna like do that with you right now. I was like, no, we don't like this, we don't like this at all. I don't want to keep reading this. Like, I just want to skip over this. This is so gross and disgusting, and I'm just not here for it. It really depends on how Kat is going to continue playing into the rest of the story. Like, I don't want her to be this like driving
factor in their relationship, or even really a driving factor in the plot. I think that she was thrown into this plot story and the characters to cause like drama and trouble. I also just realized that I don't think I talked about Dane's redemption arc. I don't know how to feel about the redemption arc. When I first like read it, and that whole scene was so suspenseful, and then like Dane comes in and you're like, oh no, like he's gonna see everything. And I love the way that Violet like handled that situation of like, I'm gonna try to appeal to like the Dane that I know and show him like these specific things so that hopefully he doesn't, you know, ruin everything basically. It feels a little bit weird. Like we're having trust issues with both Xaden and Dane in this book. For separate reasons, obviously, but like a theme in this book is trust issues. And I just don't know, with how much we all did not like Dane after the first book, it feels like he didn't really do a lot in this book to get that redemption. In a high suspense situation, he chose their side, and it's like, all else is forgotten. You are one of us now. It just doesn't feel like enough. I wish that there had been some Easter eggs in the first book to show he's not just completely a big butthead, but the entire book was to convince us that he was completely just a big butthead. I'm not like in love with these characters as much as I was in the first book. Lots of questionable decisions have been made, not necessarily like by the characters themselves, but just by the like writing style and the decisions that like Rebecca Yarros made. Okay, spoiler filled overall thoughts after finishing Iron Flame. I am going to be looking at the review that I wrote just to make sure like I touch on all the points that I want to, but I've talked about a lot of what really impacted my rating and my reading experience. The main thing being the characters, and it wasn't the characters' fault, it was like the situations that the author chose to put into this book that I wasn't crazy about. Like overall, I just didn't like the entire middle of this book because I don't understand why we had to take such a random detour in the middle of this book to talk about Xaden's ex, and like having that be, I get it, like we're learning more about Xaden's past, which before in the first book we literally knew nothing. So I appreciate having some insight into what his life was like and that his parents basically betrothed him to Catriona, but I thought it was weird that she's just like holding this burning torch for him and she's like, I will have his crown, and Xaden was like, that's the reason why I never like wanted to be with her and I broke up with her, because with you, like you love me and accept me for who I am, and she only ever wanted me as like a title and like a crown. It just feels very odd, and like we never got the conclusion of like how they broke up. We just know that Xaden's friends like never really liked her. It all just felt very odd and not fleshed out enough. And I get that it was supposed to be another thing that creates like suspense in their relationship, but the relationship already wasn't perfect from the start of this book. Like if you wanted them to have a conflict, because this book was all about different conflicts and the theme was trust issues, they were already having trust issues because of the way that Xaden was deciding to communicate or not communicate very important things that Violet needed to be clued in on. In my opinion, that was enough. Like I was happy with that conflict in their relationship, and then how they overcame that, I really enjoyed. I didn't need the whole fighting with the ex, her showing up at the door in this like see-through robe, and like doing all of this really gross stuff. That was not for me. And I also, like, Xaden was one of my top book boyfriends with Fourth Wing, loved him so much. I hated how he not communicating and not getting involved in this whole ex situation. It made me like him less. Going off of that, I think just the overall pacing in this book was not great. I wasn't mad at the beginning portion of the book. I know that it was a slow intro, a slow first 25%, like I've talked about so many times now. But the middle part where like the torture scene, the journals, them having to go on the heist to like get the journals, I loved that. I thought that was so fun, and that's when I said I am in it to win it. Like I'm back in this. It's feeling like Fourth Wing. I was so happy with where the plot was going because I thought all of those elements were so crucial to like where the book ended up going. I love that we learned about the wards. I could have had Catriona's character cut out of the book and I probably would have given this book a higher rating because of it. And when I said like I'm not loving the characters as much, it's really just I didn't like that Violet started spiraling with insecurity when she's like literally the most powerful person
on the continent, or like one of them basically. Taryn constantly having to reassure her when Xaden like wasn't really reassuring her in certain moments. I love Taryn. I also love Andarna. I love what happened with Andarna. All of the things that happened with the dragons in this book, absolutely loved it. The other like big issue that I have is the whole Jack Barlow situation. The fact that he like was turned from when they were going through the trials, that he died, that Nolan betrayed Violet. That was all just like weird. Like there were certain scenes that weren't explained enough for me, and then there were certain elements of this book that got like so much spotlight that I literally didn't want included at all. I just don't understand how he could have been turned the entire time and no one would have noticed, especially Violet, when Xaden turns around at the end of the book and she finds out like what happened to him. She knew right away, but she didn't know when it was Jack Barlow. I will never not be upset about Jack Barlow. That makes zero sense to me. Absolutely loved the ending. I think the fact that, what's his name? What's he called? The Sage? The fact that the Sage was infiltrating, we thought it was like Violet's dreams the whole time, but really it was Xaden's dreams the whole time, and their connection made Violet experience those dreams as well. At least that's how I interpreted it. At the end, that last chapter where we get Xaden's POV of like, this is what he has been dreaming about and it actually happened. So curious at how, I never know how to say his dragon's name, Sigale. I'm so curious as to how like she's gonna play a role in this, like to help him. He's gonna want to drain power from other sources to become more powerful, but as a writer, you take your power from your dragon. Oh my gosh, I think it's so interesting. So like, even though I gave this a 3-star, I really liked this book. Like there were moments that I had a lot of enjoyment of this book, but I gave it 3 stars because in my head there were so many elements that were impacting my reading experience that at the end of the day I was like, this was a good book, it wasn't a great book. I wasn't like absolutely obsessed with it, even though I didn't want to put it down. Like I did want to find out what happens next. I'm really hoping that the next book ranks a little bit higher for me. Okay, this is my second goodbye. I would love to know, if you have read Iron Flame, if you watch all the spoilers, what your opinions were on the book. I feel like it was, I guess not polarizing, but I know that a lot of people liked Iron Flame less than Fourth Wing. Please let me know, were you one of those people? I've also heard that people who didn't like Fourth Wing as much really liked Iron Flame a lot more. And if you have any thoughts, opinions on like the plot, especially the cliffhanger, please let me know. I would love to just chat about this book in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the comments and I will see you in my next one. Bye.